right. Ms. Olson, thanks for meeting with me today. When I meet new staff, I just like to kind of get an idea of their teaching history. So tell me a little bit. What do you teach? What are your passions? What are some things outside of the classroom that you enjoy?
Okay. Well, this is my 9th year teaching.
Okay.
I'm in special education. I'm an IEP case manager. When I first went to college for teaching, I thought I wanted to be an English teacher. And so I did actually major in English. And when I applied at this school, I actually applied for the AVID position. And they didn't tell me at the time, because I had a special education endorsement, that they were interviewing me for the special education position. So I thought I was interviewing for AVID. But after the interview, they were like, "You'd be really good for this position." And I was like, "Okay, well, I have the endorsement, so I'll give it a shot." And I haven't changed since.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. I have a brother-in-law who is the director, worked his way up from being a sped teacher, worked his way up to being the director in Dodge City of the alternative school. And he always said to me, he goes, "Don't get a special ed endorsement, or else you're going to be teaching special ed. So if you want to do that, great, but if you haven't, they're going to use it."
That's exactly what happened.
So that's really interesting. Okay. So with you being a sped teacher, it's probably each day is maybe a little bit different, but what would you say a typical day in your classroom looks like?
So I always like to start off with like a conversation with my students. I don't like to just jump right into work. So I always have some kind of random question of the day on the whiteboard. Today's was, what is your preferred way to travel? So it's just kind of fun to listen to my students, get some conversations going. And then after that, my students know that it's time to look at their grades and figure out what assignments they need to be working on. So I'll go over with each of my students what they're doing, how their grades look, and through that we learn like how to prioritize things, how to do time management, and then work on their specific goals through their schoolwork as well.
Love that. Do you find that it being a more intimate setting that you know these kids pretty well? Is that pretty rewarding?
It is. It's really nice. When we first started here, I only got to work with them for 2 years, 9th and 10th grade. But this is the second year we've been able to work with them for 4 years. So I've had 2 sets of students now that I've known for 4 years, and in that time I definitely get to know them and their families pretty well. And I think that's really helped a lot of my students, because I can think of one off the top of my head where if they had switched at their 11th grade year, I mean, it took 2 years for me to have them say more than 4 words to me in a day, so having to go through all that again, it would have been really tough.
Is there anything that you wish was different about your job? Anything that you could change if you had a magic wand?
Time to get stuff done in the classroom.
Right.
We have a lot of paperwork and a lot of things to do with each student, but I'm not really sure how that would balance out.
Yeah, I don't know. I always think people don't appreciate how much time sped teachers have to put in outside of just their classroom. Yeah, you guys
paperwork.
might only have 5 to 10 students, but the amount of work you have to put in for each student more than makes up for the smaller class sizes. So from what I've heard, you were chosen to be kind of part of a pilot program where you co-teach in a math classroom.
Mm-hmm.
How's that going for you?
I think it's going pretty well. I feel really lucky that the person I got paired with, I think we mesh pretty well together. I kind of like the pair up of sped and gen ed, because I mean, it does help that I have a pretty good math background, even though I didn't. It's weird being an English teacher technically, but I love math. But being able to like work with that and see how it all works, I think it works pretty well.
Yeah, from what I've heard talking with that teacher, that he thinks it's a pretty good pairing too. Sounds like you guys have had a lot of success. So it sounds like what you're going to be trying is a gallery walk in this class period. What gets you excited about trying the gallery walk?
I really like the idea of getting students up and walking. I mean, they're sitting all day long. And so I know sometimes we're like, oh, we're going to get them and stand up. They're like, oh my gosh. But once they get going, it's usually not the case. They're not as upset or anything. But yeah, just something about getting that kinetic movement in with learning. There are some students that really find that the kinetic part really helps them keep it down. And so it's nice to be able to get students to see that there are other ways to learn as well.
Yeah, being a former math teacher myself, I always love doing activities like that. I've always said it's a way to trick students into doing math, right? Because you present it in a different way. It's not a worksheet or it's not some website that they have to do anymore. So have you ever used Gallery Walk before?
I've kind of seen it before. I haven't done like a well thought out one, I guess.
Right,
Some
right.
kind of cheesy ones.
Is there anything you're nervous about for the Gallery Walk?
I don't know if every student will get up and follow the directions, or it could get, I feel like it could get chaotic pretty easily. And so trying to keep it fun, but not crazy. And just making sure everyone does part of it.
Have you thought about what you're going to do if some students refuse?
Well, I like to talk to my students, so like, you know, I'm trying, instead of like, hey, I need you to do this, hey, what's going on, you know, what do you not like about this? So, especially since I get to know my students pretty well, I feel like I could use that relationship to try and figure out what's going on and maybe adjust something on the fly if I need to.
Yeah, you know, I've always been told since day when I'm teaching that there's always a reason why the students want to do it. They might not know the reason, and part of our job is helping them figure out why are you feeling this way. So that's awesome that you really value the relationships you have with your students. That's very clear from what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when are you thinking you're gonna try this Gallery Walk?
I was thinking tomorrow, since it's block day and we got a lot of time.
Okay. And block day means you just have like extra time, like
Yeah.
double
It's
class period.
yeah,
Okay.
90 minutes instead of 52.
Oh, wow. That's did the students stay engaged for all 90 minutes?
No. That's clear no. It's really, it takes special planning a lot of the time. It's not enough time to do 2 lessons, or if we're working on a lot of work, there's a lot of breaks involved. I like to go for walks and play some games. You know, we've been known to play a video game or two. So just break it up.
You know, sometimes there's days where you just got to get to 3 o'clock, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. My first job it was block all day. I really, you know, I don't think I knew otherwise, because if I now was asked to do that, I don't know how I would do it.
Yeah, that would be
I've really mastered the 50-minute lesson. So, man, having to teach on a block, I think that would be really difficult for me. All right, so what day would you like me to come in? Would tomorrow, the block day you said, would that work?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So obviously I'm just gonna come in, kind of look around, take some notes. What would you kind of like me to be looking for when I'm in your classroom?
I guess how I respond to things that aren't going according to plan would be nice, just to see how it looks from an outside perspective. Because I know some of the kids are going to be totally fine, like they love stuff like this, but I have a feeling some of them are going to be not in the mood. So how that works out could be interesting.
Okay. So it sounds like this is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to, because it's, you know, this is in your co-taught class and isn't in, I guess, your SPED classroom. Does that make you nervous at all, knowing that you probably have pretty good relationships with these students, but maybe not as intimate since you don't have them for all 4 years?
Definitely. Yeah, I am a little worried about that. But I do feel like I have at least a baseline relationship with all of them, so I wouldn't be nervous talking to them, more about just what I could do to help them.
Yeah, I think what's also really cool, since are in the SPED, you know, what I've always taught is if you can teach it at this level, it helps everybody. I think a lot of times we get into trouble in education because we try to teach everything here, and then we lose these students.
Yeah.
Do you feel like having that SPED background allows you to have some strategies that maybe a normal gen ed teacher doesn't have access to?
Yeah, I at least have more practice with it, because I feel like a lot of gen ed teachers, like, know of it or have seen it, but it's like not part of their toolbox per se, so they're not as familiar with it, so they're like, I don't know if I want to bring this in right now, which I could totally understand. It'd be kind of, it's always weird to bring in something new for the first time.
Yeah, definitely. I think that lack of confidence, maybe from not using it a whole lot, maybe is what stops teachers from doing it. But yeah, that's really exciting. Okay, so I will be in block day. Looks like you want me to make sure I'm kind of looking to tell me if I got this right, how you respond to sort of off-task behaviors or students that are a little apprehensive to try,
That sounds
and possibly give you some feedback of what you could try next time.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
I'd love that.
Okay, perfect. Would you be available to meet Friday after I get these observations, after I get these feedback?
Definitely.
Okay, great, perfect. Looking forward to seeing it. Looking to see how the gallery walk goes, and looking forward to seeing you teach.
Sounds good. Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.